Welcome to J-Space.
J-Space.
After Dark. Welcome to J-Space After Dark, Episode 2. In this episode, we're going to cover a gas mining operation. This is a holdover from the last episode where we were chased out. We do actually go back. We're going to go into detail on a new ship we added to the fleet. We're going to cover a second gas mining operation where we actually lose our first ship to PvP. We're going to go over a ship overview for that team that attacked us. And then we're going to take a pause and just go through some J-Space mechanics. Like, how does it work? You know, kind of a 50,000 foot view of how these wormholes operate in J-Space. Then we're going to go to another gas mining operation that has some PvP in it. And we're going to talk about our new combat ship we brought in from the results of that last gas op. And then we'll just wrap it up and talk about future plans for the crew and where they're going to go inside Wormhole and J-Space. Then I want to give a special shout out to Micro522. He's provided a lot of technical assistance, helping get the mix down just right, chaining up compressors, so hopefully the audio on this episode is a bit more calming, a bit more relaxing, and we'll link his Twitch account in the description, so check it out. Thanks for watching J-Space. Let's get started. At the end of the last episode, we were chased out of this system. This is a couple hours later. We're going to try to clear out all this system. So if you notice, we've got our gas miners back on site. They're mining, and we're using our combat ship to clear some sleeper sites. Still using the Sacrilege Heavy Assault Cruiser. This isn't really ideal for the job. We're going to have to think about changing this up. We did, however, remember to bring the mobile tractor unit, so hopefully this ratting will be much more efficient than the last time we were doing this. And just for context, trying to get familiar and comfortable with running 2 gas people while we're also grinding some combat sites. And while we were clearing that combat site, we actually depleted the gas clouds. So now we're going to reposition the miners to another gas site. While they're repositioning, we're grabbing the loot out of the mobile tractor unit. Okay, both miners on site getting new gas. And looks like we got about 12 million out of that combat site. Things are going pretty well. This will be the third combat site we're clearing. And our mining team has just about finished off the second and last gas site in this system. Cleared that site except for a battleship, but because the gas sites are cleared, we're just gonna scoop this 8 million and we're gonna move on. We've got some very full gas harvesters. So now we're just getting everybody back home safe. So another 7 million on the one miner. $13 million on the other miner, so 20 million. And 33 million. So let's just call it 53. Alright, we're on another mission. We probed out a new J-Space system, uneventful probing, did a little bit of hacking, still need to improve our hacking skills, not able to complete a lot of the mini games. Now, instead of having our combat ship and our 2 miners, we're going to try just having 3 miners this time. It's not a perfect test because we had one ship going to actually to a trade hub to get the miner, so we go and do that, but then we do fly it back. So now we've got all 3 miners working. This won't be a perfect test because a lot of that one miner was not on site for the majority of the time, but we're going to clear this site out almost, fill our cargo holds, then head back. Got 80% full at 32 million on one miner. Only 5 million on the new miner. Let's see what the other miner has. And 28 million on the other one. So pretty good haul. Looking at 65 million and we get back to port safely. Alright, we join our in-progress mission, our next mission, where we are mining some gas again. As we go through the episodes, I'll stop covering things that have been well covered before, so standard procedure for this, which was probe it out, do a little bit of hacking. In this case, I'm trying to reduce a little bit of risk by having just the one prospect on station until the defenders spawn. So once the defenders spawn, we're going to come clear them out. I'm not sure if this is a good doctrine, but just trying to reduce the amount of ISK, millions of ISK at risk. And in this case, defenders just didn't seem to spawn. We're at 25 minutes on site with no defenders, so you'll notice we have 2 of our gas miners in there. Just went ahead and brought the second one in. We're running a prospect and a venture. I'm starting to think that, okay, finally we have defenders spawn. We're going to get our combat ship rolling to handle that. Pretty much standard procedure at this point. Okay, we've got our combat ship. We've switched to the Ishtar. The Ishtar seems better suited for this all around. Clears them faster, has a better tank. This is a C-84 gas cloud. That one's worth quite a bit more by volume, per volume, than the others. So, pretty lucrative for us here. Now I got a little bit spooked while looking at the D-scan. It's changing a little bit, and I'm not sure if it's just a arbitrary sort order, so I think I might need to sort by name. Anyway, pulled the miners off site. Now getting them back on site. Alright, we cleared that C-84 cloud. I think we're getting about full here. 20 million on the one miner at 80% of cargo. $35 million on the other miner at about 60% of cargo. We'll just call it there. Another successful mining op. The whole team gets back to base safely. No issues. We spend a lot of time probing out these systems, a lot of time scanning, and we've been doing it on the cheap. So let me show you, this is a new ship we're adding to the fleet. And I'm just going to describe some of these ships for those of you who aren't familiar with EVE Online. Previously, we've been flying the Anathema. It's an AMR covert recon ship. It has bonuses to 10% to the scanner probe strength. It has a 10% reduction in probe scanning time. And some bonuses to deviation, 5%. It also gives you plus 10 strength to hacking for the relic and data analyzer. And let's see how we're fitting it. We've been fitting it pretty basic. Just a Sisters core probe launcher. That's actually a recent upgrade. We were using the stage 1. And without the Sisters, this fit was about 25-30 million ISK. With the Sisters, it's about, now that's saying 63, figure more like 70. We've got it equipped with passive modules to increase the scan time and strength. But we're spending a lot of time, maybe half an hour, trying to scan out each system. We haven't lost a ship yet, so I thought to spend some of that money we've been making on an Astero. The Astero is a Sisters of Eve faction ship. It has Galente frigate bonuses as well as AMR frigate bonuses, and our two pilots that are able to do combat ships both have maxed out Galente and AMR frigate 5. So that's a 20% drone hit point bonus per Galente frigate level, 4% armor resistance per AMR frigate level. It has a roll bonus of 37.5% strength for combat scanner probes, and it has the 10 relic and data analyzer. The theory for this is while it doesn't actually scan any faster, it will actually get the scanning done faster just because we'll hit 100% sooner. So let's look at this ship. I think it looks pretty cool. Now in this fitment, we're still being very conservative. A covert ops cloaking device, so it can still move while cloaked in warp. A Sisters core probe launcher. A basic shield tank. Nanofiber damage control. Warp core stabilizer. the goal here is to still escape. We've got a module to help us with the scan time, and we've got another rig to help with signal strength while scanning. This fitted out is 160, 170 million ISK, but it has a micro warp drive. If we do enter a J-space system that's been bubbled between the micro warp and the stealth, covert ops stealth, we can probably get back to the entrance wormhole and get out. So we're going to see how this does. Hopefully this will speed up our exploration and scanning. Okay, we're on another op. We've got a new Class 2 J-space system we're going to try to do some gas mining in. We've mixed up the profile a little bit. We did actually use the Astero to probe. It was much faster. That was great. Now, instead of running a prospect with the covert ops cloak, we're running two ventures. This brings our risk cost down, which will come into play a little bit later. Now this system is pretty well connected. There's a high-sec wormhole, a low-sec wormhole, a C45 wormhole, actually two high-sec wormholes. So this is pretty well connected. Also, when I first found the gas site and sent the gas team in, there were already Defender NPCs on grid. So someone had tried to mine that previously. So we've got our Ishtar. Gonna quickly clear out the defenders. Alright, now we almost have this site cleared when one of our gas miners actually gets attacked. And I get a little bit lucky here in that I'm actually looking at the miner to see how much inventory is left when two faction frigates get on grid. Yep, and I see them come on grid, and I actually messed this up. I warped first, and then hit my warp core stab after, and that actually is not the right order. I should have hit the warp core stab first. I looked at the logs, and they had 2 scrams on me, which should be 4 points, but I didn't activate the warp core stab first, so I only had the 2 points. And they get him. But on the plus side, that's a $9 million hull, and we actually got the other ship out okay. So, lesson learned here, which was, even with almost staring right at it, I fumbled the escape. But the other gas miner had about 27 million worth of gas on them. So, not the end of the world. The Pacifier is a faction frigate. I'll do a synopsis of that shortly here. I guess they're staying on D-scan trying to figure out how to fit near 4,000 M3 worth of gas into 2 frigates. While they're doing that, we get both the Combat Ishtar and our other venture out of the system safe. So we lost a $9 million ship. We did lose the 27 million worth of gas cargo, But from an operations standpoint, we made 27, lost 9, so I'd still say it's positive. These characters don't have any implants in them. Let's take a look at the Pacifier frigate. It's a special edition covert ops frigate, and the first thing that jumps out is the price. It looks like they're moving for 500 million ISK. If I look at the price history, it's basically correct. Some low outliers, but generally moving for 500 million ISK. And so someone committed 1 billion ISK worth of frigates, 2 of them, to take out our 9 million ISK base miner. Now, they also got 20 to 30 million worth of gas that we dropped when we exploded, but that's not the risk-reward profile I would enter into. Just interesting. Let's see what it can do. So it's a frigate. It has a bunch of bonuses. So just off the top, it gets bonuses for skills in covert ops, Galente frigate, Minmatar frigate, Caldari frigate, and Amar frigate. I won't go through all the benefits, but basically it's going to have bonuses to damage as well as probing. And it is a covert ops ship, so it can warp while cloaked. And I'm just looking at the roll bonuses. It warps faster. It has hacking bonuses. And it has, I've never seen this before. I will read this part. 10% bonus to security status gains from destruction of non-capsuleer pirates while flying this ship. Armor repair and shield booster effectiveness increased by a percentage equal to 10 times pilot security status, with a floor of 0% and a ceiling of 50%. So that's wild. That it's going to have a tank that's pretty beefy based on your security status. Then if we go over to the layout, it has 5 high slots with 4 turrets and 4 launcher. So that's going to let you run full turrets or full missile launchers with your covert ops cloak. It has 4 mid slots and 4 low slots. So I looked at the logs, combat logs. So our attackers were each running a scrambler, and I assume a covert ops cloak. They were running hybrid blasters, and they each did about 3,000 damage in 27 seconds. And that lines up with the effective HP of our miner. And let's see what this looks like. That's a pretty cool looking ship. I could imagine that appearing in like Star Wars maybe even. Let's see what this says about any description. It's Concord's premier fast attack frigate. Anyway, I thought I'd mention it, go through it. I was not familiar with it. That's a lesson learned. In the future, when we see a pacifier on D-scan, which we did earlier in the mining op, we're going to get out, because that means someone's putting 500 million ISK on the line. The other thing about that system that I think is worth pointing out was how highly connected it was. We had 2 different high-sec wormholes active, and then another 2, I believe, 2 low sec and another 4 to 5. So just a lot of connections, and we were given also the hint that someone was there and active when we landed on the the gas cloud that was already being defended by NPCs. So I think for 9 million lost and a little bit of time going to get a new miner, that was a good lesson. Alright, we're in another play session. Operation is the same. We are starting off with our scout ship, our new scout ship, and looking for some Class 3 systems in wormhole space. Now, one of the things that the attack yesterday had me thinking about was, are there more backwater systems we could find? Like, do we always need to be in a J-space system that's one hop off of known space? So today, I'm trying to test that theory a little bit by digging around a little deeper and getting 2 hops in. And as we're doing this, I'm thinking, I actually don't know what the rules are for how these systems are connected. So while I was doing this, I was pulling a little bit of research with the bot, just asking questions around what's the distribution of different systems in J-space? How many of them are connected to known space? And while this probing session's going on, we're going to take a pause from it and kind of walk through a little hello world of what is J-space. Okay, this will be a educational segment of the show where we talk about what is J-space. You know, we've been exploring from our high-sec hub into low-sec, hunting around for these wormholes into Class 3, and Class 3 has kind of been what we're hunting for, because a Class 3 J-space system has mobs that our team can deal with, right? The crew is able to clear them. But one of the things that I was thinking of is, well, are there any backwater systems? How can we get off the beaten path a little bit and maybe deal with less volume of gank teams? So just want to explain, what is known space? Known space is the only space that existed when I played the game many years ago. And known space is composing of 5,500 systems. Roughly 70% of all systems are in known space. And this data is pulled from Anoikis and the EVE SDE, and as well as the ESI portal. So this is all pretty well confirmed. If it's wrong, let me know in the comments. But known space can have high sec, low sec, and null sec. Now in high sec you can attack people, but automated NPC robots are gonna blow you up instantly. Concord, not instantly. This is how ganks happen. So you may have 20 ships all shooting at a target in high sec, and Concord ships will arrive and blow you up. And then depending on how secure the system is, 0.5 to 1.0 determines how much time it takes Concord to arrive. I think the lower bound is like 24 seconds, so attackers get 24 seconds of free shooting before they get blown up. Low sec is no Concord safety umbrella, so you can attack and shoot whomever you want. You do get a security standing on your character, so if you don't true up your reputation, eventually you'll be permanently blinky yellow or blinky red. But in general, you can kill people as you want. Then there's null sec, which is 0.0, and there's no standing hit for you can blow up whomever you want. In current EVE, nullsec is mostly controlled by 1 or 2 extremely huge alliances, so nullsec is actually kind of Care Bear space now, where everyone just kind of stands around and does NPC mining because there's only 1 or 2 teams that matter and no one's actually attacking anybody. That's my understanding from reading. Anyway, then there's wormhole space. So wormhole space is 2,600 systems, roughly a third of all systems. And what's pretty cool about wormhole space is that nobody sees you in local. So in known space, the minute you enter a system, everyone in that system can see it. They can take your name, look at your kill board, start pinging your name into the intel channels, that kind of stuff. So wormholes don't have that. So what's fun about wormholes is you're forced to rely on just your probing and scanning. Quick note on that, in known space, when you appear on local, to find you, they still have to probe you out or descan you somehow, get to you. The same applies for wormhole space, except for since there is no local, that is the only way to do it. So it's when you enter a wormhole system, there might be 20 people there, you don't know. I think it's kind of cool. Okay, so within wormhole space, we've got 6 different classifications. So we've got C1 through C6 and increasing levels of difficulty. And here's the distribution. Most populous is C2 with 500 some odd systems. C3 next up. C4. But the big thing we want to look at here is there's a cutoff between C1 to C3. Those systems are always connected to known space. Then C4 to C6 are not necessarily connected to known space. So how does that happen? So every system in JSpace is going to have what's called a static and some wandering wormhole. And these are links to other systems. So a static link will always be there. And if that link goes away, like the wormhole expires, another one will immediately appear. What that does for us is that you're basically guaranteed to have a connection, not necessarily to a specific system, but to a class of system. So if a given system, say, has a high-sec static, it will always have a wormhole that goes to high-sec. It might go to JITA. It might go to AMAR. It doesn't say where in high-sec, just that there will be one link to high-sec. And then how many statics does a system have? In general, most 1,476 have one link, one static. Another 1,000 have 2. Then there's some oddball ones that have 3, but for the most part, 1 or 2. What's interesting is, for the C1 through C3, they are guaranteed to have one of those statics go to known space. C4 to C6, 97% chance that they do not go to known space and instead go to other wormhole systems. This is the piece that is interesting for us, where if we want to try to get into the backwater a little bit more, targeting C4, C6 is actually our jam, because we're better. There's a better chance that these aren't just right connected off of low sec or high sec, null sec, known space. Now, those are the statics. There are wandering wormholes that randomly appear. When they disappear, they're re-rolled not necessarily into this system. So it is possible through the wandering wormholes for the C4 to C6 to have connections into high-sec. So this 97% guarantee of no high-sec known space connection for a C4 to C6, that's only saying a static. So the wanderers will come in here and change that value. All right, so for our purposes, we're going to try to find and focus on C6 to C4, that second block, which is less likely to have a connection into high sec or low sec, to try to reduce the amount of foot traffic moving through. Okay, here we are in our Astero. We were in a C3 system, and people just kept coming in, coming out, combat probes, sisters probes, tackles on, just a lot of stuff. So, armed with this knowledge of, hey, let's try to get out of the high traffic systems, we've actually found a connected C5 system off of that C3 system. We're just finishing probing it out with our Astero, and what seems good so far is we've got the connection back to where we came from. We've got a connection to a C4 or 5, as well as a C1 to 3, but those are both expiring. They're both at less than 4 hours. So my hope there would be that people aren't really going to be going in and out of those portals so much. just probing out this one last signals here. And what's cool is we've got a vast frontier reservoir here, and that could keep our gas miners busy for quite a while, so we're going to try to take advantage of that. Okay, so we finished probing this out, and we see we have just that one connection back to C3 that has not yet expired. So this would hopefully be a less high traffic system. While we've done this, nothing's shown up on D-scan. We've been here as far as we can tell by ourselves. So now we're just getting the Ishtar spooled up here, because there are 8 cruisers sitting on that gas site. So we're going to clear that gas site out and then get our miners loaded in. Okay, here's the last Defender cruiser going down. Pretty straightforward. Ishtar had no issues with this. I was a little concerned that we're in a C5, that maybe the Ishtar couldn't do it, but it had no problem. Okay, we've got our first gas miner on site, and of course it's been quiet the whole time, and now we've got Sister's core scanner probes on D-scan. These aren't combat probes, but it's someone else is here looking around. So we're cloaked up. We just go AFK for a while to see if this person moves out. Okay, we're getting both gas miners onto the reservoir. The C-28 cloud is a bit down off the landing spot, which actually is helpful because we're going to get some company in a second. So what we've done is I've flown both of our harvesters down off the warp-in point and spread them out. So they're 40 kilometers away from the warp-in point. They're also 35, 40 kilometers away from each other, which is still inside the cloud. My thought here is, if those probes we saw earlier were mapping this out, I don't want to be on that point when they land on it. And it's unfortunate because we really just got set up. The one miner's been here a little bit longer, but my guess is whoever was probing sat a tackle and cloak, and they're going to jump in here in a second. Okay, and here's our bogey, Christina Knight in a Manticore. Note the distance, 42 kilometers. This time I actually get the order of operations proper. She's coming in really quick. By the time I'm warping, she's inside 10 kilometers, but wasn't able to scram us. Now remember, the Venture has a warp stab 2 on the ship hull, and then the warp core stabilizer another 2 points. So those 2 Ventures coming out should have had 4 points, and it doesn't seem like she was able to stop us. So now we're cloaking up. I'm doing a little bit of research on who this person is, and the net result is, and I wasn't familiar with the Manticore. It's a covert ops stealth bomber. Looking at her killboard history, when she's in the stealth bomber, she's usually the tackle, or just doing damage for a flycatcher. So typically when she's in the stealth bomber, not all the time, but 90% of the time, she's paired with interdictor flycatcher or something else, just based on her kill board. So we just hang out here for a bit. Okay, so while those ships are sitting there cloaked up, I decide to bring in a combat ship that can maybe deal with this. If it's a stealth bomber and an interdictor and that's it, I feel pretty good about chasing them off with my nano Pilgrim. So what we're seeing now is I'm just moving that ship over. If you're not familiar with a Pilgrim, maybe I'll do a summary of it as a full segment, but my ship of choice when I used to play was a Nano Curse, and that is a ship that flies pretty fast and can destroy the enemy's capacitor, making them unable to heal themselves, things like that. The Pilgrim is very similar now because it gets range bonuses that it didn't in the day to those energy neutralizers, and it can move while cloaked. So this is what I have prepped, and I'm going to get this on site because we're going to have to start contesting these gas sites. Spent a lot of time this session getting chased out of that C3, unable to really do gas mining. Finally found what I hoped was a backwater system, and the moment I start mining, we've got someone jumping down on us. Alright, so what you're seeing here is we've got the Pilgrim on station. The Pilgrim can recloak almost immediately within a 1 second server tick. So unless our attacker has been refreshing very, very quickly, there's a limited window for them to see the Pilgrim get into the system. So what we have right now is the Pilgrim is aligned and moving towards the Vast Frontier Reservoir. So really all I need to do is click into that and warp, and it's moving. There is a targeting delay on this, and that targeting delay is due to decloaking. So the plan would be, we've got one of our gas miners back on site mining. It's been about 45 minutes since they jumped us. The hope would be they just go away. If they didn't go away, the hope would be that the Pilgrim can deal with a flycatcher and a stealth bomber. So anyway, the plan would be something pops up, we start moving the miners out while simultaneously having this aligned Pilgrim jump in. And for better or for worse, they don't come back, and we close out this session for the time being of filling 2 ventures full of C-28, which is about 60 million ISK between them, so not bad. Now, there's this idea of how much ISK an hour, and this or that, and people saying on YouTube they do 1 billion ISK an hour, but there's also fun per hour, right? So part of what we're doing here is just exploring and trying to get our hands around what J-Space is like, have some fun, getting jumped and then trying to prevent that from happening. That's pretty enjoyable. For the crew we have right now, triple boxing L4 missions would be the most ISK efficient per hour, but that's bleeding eyes boring to do that in my mind. Okay, so this whole crew gets back safe, and we were here mining this for about another 45 minutes, I think, total to get those cargo holds full, and didn't see any other action. So there's maybe a slightly points to that being in a C4 to C6 system gives you a little less traffic. We'll have to see how that bears out as we do this some more in the future. Hey, this is going to be a ship overview for the Pilgrim. It's an AMR Force Recon ship, a Tech 2 cruiser, and we've added it to our fleet for a couple of reasons, but you'll notice in the last mining operation, we brought it in to try to deal with potentially a frigate and a Dictor, which is the destroyer, Tech 2 destroyer, interrupting our mining. So this is actually a ship that my character never really flew back when I played a lot, because it was only really used for opening sinos. The ship everyone ran and what I ran was the Curse. But let's talk a little bit about this ship and why I think it's in the current state of EVE Online is probably a little bit better than the Curse for a solo play. So what are the primary bonuses on this? You get 10% bonus to energy neutralizer and Nosferatu drain amount, 20% bonus to their optimal range, and this is the critical piece, and then 10% bonus to the fall off. You get it's cheaper to mount a cloaking device, and then you have the standard Ammar Cruiser, which is 10% bonus to drone hit points and weapon disruptor effectiveness. And then it can also still open sinos. What's exciting about this ship is that as a solo combat ship meant to engage and punch up maybe 2-on-1, is that it's let's simulate this fit for you here. When you're solo, you're basically limited by your range of your warp disruptor. So we've got a 24-kilometer range. So we would be needing to stay within, probably orbiting around 18 to 20 kilometers, depending on how wide that orbit goes, which, with this energy neutralizer range, is right in the optimal range for us. Now, you'll notice we have around, let's put these drones active. We've got the small drone, we've got the drones on. So we've got about 370 DPS, which that's probably not enough to break an active tank on its own. An active tank meaning someone running an armor repper. But we have 3 medium energy neutralizer 2s, and they're hitting for 270 gigajoules every 12 seconds, which, if you look at a heavy, like on a battleship, like on an Armageddon, they're doing about the same amount, around 600 every 24 seconds. So this is nuding as hard as a battleship. And if you look at like a cruiser, we have how much capacitor here? We've got 1350. Let's say someone has 1500. We're gonna get through that pretty quickly and break their active tank. Now, in the situation we had on the last mining operation, you're gonna stagger these, and this would basically shut down almost immediately that stealth bomber. So this ship is pretty quick. We're looking at 1800 meters a second and just a passive shield tank. The idea is we can bug out if we can't handle the fight. And what's nice about this is when you're running, the tackles are typically faster, so they're gonna naturally space out. And so if you've got a tackle on you, you can be killing them with your drones while you're shutting down their ability to tackle you. So it has a really good ability to get out of fights that it doesn't want to be in. So we're going to try running this as our basically mining operation combat PvP security ship. We'll see how that goes. There's a really good video series that I'm going to link in the description. It's about 15 videos in the playlist of how to run this exact fit of a Pilgrim as of 2 years ago, which is still, to my understanding, current meta. So welcoming a new ship into our fleet, the Pilgrim. We're going to see this in the following episodes, trying to protect and contest these gas sites so we don't get pushed off them. All right, well, that's going to wrap up episode 2 of J-Space After Dark. In the upcoming episode of J-Space After Dark, we're going to look into running deeper into these wormhole systems, not staying at the fringes, targeting those C4s, the C5s. We're going to start trying to contest these gas sites, so I'd expect to see some losses, but that's just going to be a learning experience, and I think it's going to be worth it. And part of the goal here is to look what it's going to be like to stop day tripping and just actually live inside of J-Space. Part of that effort, and we've talked about it in episode 1, is do we live out of an Orca? We have a pilot training for Orca? Or do we have like a player-owned station that we drop and pick up? maybe a little bit of both. So I'm kind of researching that. If anyone has any thoughts or opinions on that, that'd be great to throw down in the comments, because I really don't know what the better option is right now. It looks like previously people living out of an Orca were using very old deep safes, like 100 AU off of the system grid, so that, you know, when you've got your Orca parked out there, people can't even probe you out. So I'm not sure in 2026, without the ability to have deep safes like that, if an Orca is viable, but we're gonna find out. And we'll probably actually need a fourth character here as well, so there was start some planning on that. And if you got through the entire episode, I really appreciate you for listening. That really helps with the algorithm, and you know, it's a big help for the channel, so I really appreciate that. And make sure to check out Micro522's channel. Yeah, thanks for the help with the audio, and take a look at that Pilgrim how-to video. It's a pretty awesome explanation of how to use the Pilgrim. And with that, this is JSpace After Dark, signing off.